Alright, message here is fan club. You know, the fan club. I was just thinking about this, I took time just thinking about this a little while ago. Thinking about the 12 disciples, right? How Christ was kind of that mentor for all of these guys, a ragtag group of guys that, you had different people from different arenas, different backgrounds, and things like that, and how he molded them into himself. And he's like, hey, basically, in so many words, it goes like this: like, hey, I'm not going to be around here forever, guys. Look, I want you to continue and do the kingdom and do what I tell you to do. And I'm gonna go away. I'm gonna give you my spirit. And my spirit's going to comfort you, going to be with you, and he's going to help you, and he's going to direct you in what you need to do. And it's like, I mean, to me, that was the ultimate mentor, if you think about it. Because he went all throughout the world with the 12 disciples, and they saw him do all of these things. They saw him do the miraculous. They saw him do the casting out of demons and healings and the salvations and drawing people to himself, and that's probably the one thing that, I mean, you think, wow, man, it's a lot easier to believe that than to than to have. But then there's a scripture that says, "Blessed are those who have not seen yet believed," or something like that. But anyway, yeah, he was one of those guys that he told the people that the 12 disciples, the people that were following him, to go and do everything that in my name. And if you do it in my name, then guess what? Everything's going to work out okay. The kingdom will fall. The kingdom will break out. And I think sometimes we, and a lot of ways, we miss that part, that you do it. If you don't do it in his name, you're just kind of going around, oh, okay, kind of doing it on your own whim. You're not going to have the best results. You're doing it on your own power, your own deal. And I think we all come, if you've been part of the faith for a while, there's been different people that you've been exposed to, that you've, that have had a profound impact on your life in one way or another, and that's the joy of, really the heritage of your background and everything like that. I mean, for me, I sat under many great people of the faith, from Copeland, Hagen, to guys like Christy Miko, the more modern, up and coming, newer, the Rodney Brown type people of the world. And then the people that really have had a more the lesser known people, the Donnie Johnsons of the world, who, kind of brought everything that you believe into the reality of it. It made it more of a personal deal. And I think that that's awesome. That's a great place to be. And then there's the Dwight Thompsons of the world as well. That have a strong spirit, that just boom, just have that way of just saying whatever, and that's it, and there's many others that that we've all had in our life. And those are kind of like the God dots that Steve Muntz talks about, and people that have had a profound impact on our lives, And even guys that I still listen to today, like the Nate Rucks of the world, who still affected and impacted my life growing up, and I still never forget where you're coming from. Never forget your own roots. I think that's really what it is. I think a lot of people will they go throughout life and they forget where they came from. For me, I don't. I always have to keep that in mind. I mean, there's very few people I know today that have that have their youth pastor that they had when they were. I mean, there's people I know. I suppose that if you had Steve Buns way back long ago, yeah, then of course you would. But I've had about two. I would say about 2 or 3 different people. Nate for one, because I used to watch Nate on TV all the time. You always had a TV thing every Friday night. It was always kind of the tradition for me. I'd watch him, and then I'd watch I watched another guy that was from Eugene, Oregon. This Crossfire Youth thing or whatever. That was kind of cool. I liked that. It was just good stuff. And then can't even remember the guy's name, but anyway, doesn't matter. And let's see. So yeah, those 2 guys, and then Barry, who still friends with Barry to this day. Every once in a while he'll put out something. And then of course the people that I think there's a Spencer Nordyke. I never really got sat under his ministry that much, but he is another guy another man of God that has done a lot as well. Most of these guys are AG type people, but yeah, and it's awesome. It's pretty cool in a way to think about all of the experiences that we've had, that you've had, or I've had. People have just that we've sat under for years, or maybe not even years, maybe a short time, and you just are like, whoa. Sometimes you got to sit back and think about your own heritage of how you came into this whole deal of faith. And it's good. It's a good thing. It's kind of like a roadmap. It's a roadmap of where you started and your journey, and then where you are right now. And it's a privilege, I think, in a way to say, you went to school with a lot of people. There was a fair amount of people I could go through your book and say, yeah, pick out 2 people that I know for sure that I thought, man, this guy's got the anointing and the potential to be something big. And and then, so they go to Bible college, right? And then you find a woman, and then you have a family, and that's it. Okay. Well, that's that, I'm not going to start naming names, but, it's just how it is. It's kind of cool to think about those times, and you think, wow, I think sometimes we can go, and then there's also those people that you go back to, that you grew up with, like I have a friend of mine that has had a church now for quite a while. I grew up with them, and it's like, it's kind of crazy and cool at the same time to see somebody's path, like, I mean, it's weird, and it's so awesome and cool at the same time to see, they went to Bible college over here, and before that we were just feel like it was only yesterday we were hanging out, and that's kind of cool, and you watch their life change in dramatic ways, I mean, here's another guy that it's like, wow. I was just thinking about another guy that I grew up with as well. And I was just kind of looking on Greg Laurie's thing, right? He's got a Instagram. I was just kind of seeing who he follows. Just kind of curious, right? I'm like, whoa. There was a friend on there that I grew up with. He's a pretty well-known individual, I guess, in a lot of different circles. Somebody that, when Franklin Graham had his tour when he was going to the different, this was years ago now, but like 10 years ago or more. Yeah, back when Franklin Graham was on a tour and he was going to different stops along the Mississippi River, and it was my friend. I know he opened up for him, I think, and had a message, I guess, that he gave before Franklin Graham. And that was kind of, and I think once that happened, that kind of put him on the map, and obviously made, and of course his friend, he wrote a book and all that there too. But yeah, I just think it's so awesome to look at where people are at nowadays, and you just think about, like, man, where is this person at compared to where they were yesterday or 5 years? Well, 5 years ago, not yesterday, but 5 years ago, 10 years ago, And it's so freaking awesome to think about the places that people go. Even a guy like Fred Shirley, for example. I'm just naming names right now, but nobody knows who I'm talking about. Some of you do, but anyway, one of those guys that I got to know when I was in high school. Somebody that had had always had a good word. I had a good always something good to say. I'm trying to think who that was. It was stung up to God. I think that might have been him. Sounds about right, doesn't it? Yeah. And see, it's funny to think about those things that you listen to as a kid, a young boy, in your mid-teens, you're in high school, and here's this guy from Arkansas he was a youth pastor at the time, not a senior pastor now like he is now, but anyway, it's just like, wow. It's such a cool and awesome thing, like, I was just remarking on this earlier, how the fruit that the seeds that you planted years ago, that were planted in your life years ago, are bearing fruit today, and I think that's a cool thing. I think a lot of times we forget seeds that were planted in our lives, in our heart, years ago, and just fruit, because that's one of the, if you're looking at an investment right now, I would say, with everything going on, planting seeds in people's lives is probably going to be your magic ticket, if you ask me. Because it's not affected by the stock market, it's not affected by anything that this world is dictated by. It has nothing to do with the government, It has everything to do with eternity. It has everything to do with planting a seed that it's going to grow and it's going to germinate and it's going to develop into a big tall oak tree or big tall apple tree or something, where somewhere point down the road it's going to bear fruit. And that's a cool thing. That's awesome. If you can get to that point where you're like sowing seeds in people's lives, and now guess what? They're bearing fruit. They are going to reap the rewards. And I was telling a friend earlier on the phone, I was thinking about that. I'm like, there's a lot of seeds that were sown in your life, in my life, years ago. Whether it's, just that time that they spent with you. For example, more recently with Matt in the last 10 years or whatever. And, seeds that were just planted. And it's like, it's crazy to think about those things. Like, I like how God reminded me of those things, that the Man vs. Wild weekend that I went on, and it changed my life. It changed the course of my life, and made me, and solidified who I am as a man and who I am in Him. Because I think if you can have that man, you are unstoppable. You are unstoppable in every way. You know, I think sometimes we get them all confused. You know, a lot of people go through an identity crisis because they, um, it's because they don't they're not secure in their identity in Him. That's deep, isn't it? That is deep. Because there's a lot of people that go through that identity crisis because they don't know. They've been told so many different things. And they don't get it from the Word. They get it, and they're listening to too many different people telling them one thing, and this guy tells them something else. And it's like, you know, get it from the Word. Get it from God. You know, and if you can get it from that, guess what? You no longer have an identity crisis. You know who you are. And when you know who you are, you can do everything that He's called you to do and be all that He's called you to do. And I think sometimes we get it twisted, we get it mixed up, and we go through life and we and we have other people telling us one thing, and He's like, nope, I want you to do this, and we're like, nope, and we, you know what it is? It's the fight of the will. It's the fight of the wills. You know, it's your will against His will, and it's like you can try and enforce and push your will, but at the end of the day, it's what's what's going to be the end payoff, right? That's the big question right there. Is it going to be better for you to? I mean, I think it's always better to follow Him than to go about it and say, well, I'll do my own will. You know, I'll do what I want to do. You know, it's easy to do what you want to do, but it's a lot harder to do. You know, you gotta. It's really what it comes down to is discernment. You gotta discern everything that you need to do. You know, discern everything that's going on in this world. Yeah, I know this is pretty deep for some people, but that's okay. You know, sometimes you gotta go deep and go long and go hard. You know, I think about some of the people that I've gotten to know over the years. You know, I mean, it's like the experiences that you have with different people. You know, the Jed and Hans Lindstroms of the world who come from a different side of life and who have impacted your life in more ways than one. You know who you are. People that have just been there and sown seeds into my life. And I'm sure that I've sown seeds in other people's lives as well. You know, I think sometimes I forget about that. You know, and everybody that's watching these videos, sowing seeds into your life in one way or another. And everybody that comes in contact with that book is going to be, I'm sowing seeds. I'm sowing a seed of faith in a difficult time of grief, in a difficult time of pain. And that's not an easy topic to write about, believe me. It's very difficult. But I know that it's going to bless so many people. And I don't look at it and say, oh, look at me. I don't take credit for nothing. I'll be honest in saying that. I'll be the first to admit it. I don't take credit for anything that's going on with that book, because here's the thing. You can look at it in one or two ways. If I was to take credit, that's not me, man. I can't do that. You know why? Because it's a God-inspired thing. It's not a, oh, I wrote that book. I mean, hey, man, I'm just the conduit. He is really the author. You know, sometimes you got to look at it. You got to get yourself out of the way for a minute and say, you know, okay, God, do what you want to do. Do what you want me to do, whatever you want to do in my life, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to get out of the way and take it. And sometimes that's all, and a lot of times that's really what it is. You know, I think a lot of times we get into that place where we're just, oh, you know, we go through life, we go through seasons where drought and just, I was, you know, I don't know where, you know, we go through life where times where it's just like, you know, you have, seasons where it's like you just you find yourself going from one spiritual high to the next. Like, I can think back to when I was back when I was in high school, right? I would have, I'd get back on some of these retreats, and I would have like a spiritual high like you wouldn't believe. And I'd be like locked in a room for a couple hours and just whatever, you know. And I had some amazing experiences throughout that, through those various times in that season. It was like, there was a season where it was like I'd see something happen, and I'd never experienced anything at that point, up to that point in my life, where it was like, whoa. And I would imagine that, you know, and there were people, I'm sure, that were exposed to something like that weren't of that particular persuasion. You know, I mean, because you know, there were people that were of different denominations, you know, and it's like, to be exposed to something like that, like, whoa, what's this? Yeah, it's like, you know, it's like getting off a roller coaster, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, let's do that again. Just kind of think about it, you know. I got out of my vehicle earlier after doing an hour and some minutes worth of cleaning, and felt like I just got off the roller coaster. No joke, man. I was like, ooh, I'll have one more of those, please. You know, but yeah, it's really what it is. You know, sowing seeds. You know, I think sometimes we go through life and we just think, oh man, you know, you know, a lot of times you're not going to see the fruit of what you're sowing. And a lot of times it can take years, man, years upon years to see. And some stuff, man, you'll see it right away. You'll see that fruit, that's bearing fruit right away, because of where they are and their growth track. See, we're all on a growth track, if you want to believe it or not. We're all growing and developing. And some people are growing at a faster rate than others. And that's perfectly fine. You know, it's like he'll take whoever and just grow you and develop you into, you know, it's like, you know, it's hard to explain it, I guess. You know, it's like trying to say, okay, I'll take this person he'll take your weaknesses and work on those, right? And then once those are good to go, then he'll work on something else. And I was like, okay, let's do this. Let's do that. So, yeah, I mean, I think sometimes it's very easy to get things twisted, you know. We think, oh man, or we don't even do that. We just think to ourselves, well, can we do this? You know, can we we want to get everything to the point where we have it where we want it to be, you know. And God's like, okay, you want to do it? Great, I'll do it. I'll do everything you want me to do, you know. And sometimes that's all there is to it, you know. But you know what? That's all you gotta do. So I know it's a lot of stuff. This is probably my longest video I've done in quite a while. So thank you. You deserve a reward if you've made it through this long on this video. I mean, like 24 minutes and some seconds. So yeah, my whole goal in creating this channel, if you think about it, was just to encourage people, to lift people up. I know that there's a lot of videos we can all watch to encourage, you know. We all have a gift, you know. We all have a gift, and we all have something that we can bring to the table. You know, we all have something unique to offer, you know. You know, not everybody is going to have steak. You know, you might have somebody that's got steak over here, but then you also go over here, you have somebody that's got chicken or shish kebabs or potato salad or chips or pop or whatever. You know, it's like you know, YouTube is kind of like this. When it comes to different ministers, different people of faith, right? We all have our favorites. You know, the Furticks of the world and the Mac Hammonds and Lynn's and all these people of faith. And then there's the lesser known people like myself who some people are, love what I do, and that's great, and then there's other people that are just like, that that have more of a name recognition behind what they do, and I think that's really where it's at. And for the longest time, I've always thought, I have a whole slew of books that I want to be able to write at some point, and I probably got about a half dozen titles of things that have been in the oven that titles of books that I haven't even written. And I don't even know what I'm going to say or anything like that, and that's the beautiful thing when it comes to writing, when it's a gift. I have no clue. It's like it's no different than being an artist that is trying to paint a picture. That artist doesn't know what kind of picture it's going to be. He just is going to paint it. And then next thing you know, it's a Picasso or it's a Rembrandt or something along those lines. Same thing applies to being a writer. You develop and you grow as you get more mature and understanding of things in him. I could probably look at all my old writings I had from like 20 years ago and like, man, I think I was pretty rough around the edges. I could think back to all those. It's kind of like if I was to think of it this way, I would say it was kind of like Jim Hammond when he first started preaching. He's not like that anymore. He's more polished now, and he's going to have his moments. He's not perfect like his dad. Obviously, his dad's got like vocabulary like you wouldn't believe. That's just who he is. It's awesome. Not everybody's going to be like Mac or Jim. You gotta at the end of the day, you gotta grow and you gotta be planted and grow and flourish where you are. And not try to be somebody else. I'll never be a Matt Richmond. Matt Richmond did things on a high level. And that's not the goal in life, to try and be like, oh, that's right, I can only be like Matt, then I'm good. I'm like, no. That doesn't cut it. Matt was a great man. Loved Matt. Matt did awesome things for the kingdom of God. He elevated people on a level that the world is unfamiliar with for his glory. And he drew all of his strength, everything he was, from God. And that's what we should be doing, is drawing everything that we are from him. If you can do that, then you've just now accomplished everything that he's wanting you to do in this life to this point, And anyway, I know I'm going on. That's a 28-minute message right there, but that's all good. It's all good. I just keep throwing stuff out there, but you know what? Yeah, I trust and believe somebody's gonna look at this someday and be like, "Whoa, this is a gem." Some liquid gold, as I used to say all the time. Oh, actually, that wasn't that long ago, but that was a catchphrase I got. I could call that, liquid gold. So, yeah, there you go. Peace out.